The Labrador coast has been called the land God gave to Cain. For Maria Galetti, it is the Garden of Eden. Galetti is a hunter whose quarry is alpine plants, and an amateur in the 19th century sense of the word. Self-taught, passionate, and expert. What makes her exceptional is that she came to her passion late in life, a life spent raising children and holding down a job.
I'm a type of person that likes challenges, and so growing alpines is really a very challenging type of plants because they are so highly specialized. And the more challenges I overcome, the more gung-ho I get to the next challenge. It's very rewarding. It's just an incredible feeling.
For 20 years and more, mornings for Maria Galetti meant getting breakfast for the kids and heading into rush hour to work. These days, they find her tending plants at the Alpines Mount Echo Nursery, 100 acres of heaven in the Sutton Mountains south of Montreal. Maria's specialty is alpines, the tiny plants found high on windswept mountainsides.
So this looks good. This is great.
She and assistant Robert Leclerc create settings that will mimic the rock crevices that are the natural home of these tiny jewels.
Wow, nice, good stuff of tufa pieces here.
For Maria and alpines, it was love at first sight.
Just looking at the first pictures of the alpines, I just thought they were just incredible. These tiny little plants and this incredible bloom on them and just the form. I mean, I was just enthralled by reading about where they grow in nature. I was so fascinated and challenged to see what I can do. And I guess that's the same with anybody that gets introduced to the alpines, the challenge to see whether they can be grown in cultivation. And according to the map at the herbarium, there were only 2 sites.
To make her mark in the alpine big leagues, Maria goes hunting for her own specimens, always hoping to discover something new. A regular source for Maria and husband Michael are the rock-bound shores of Newfoundland and Labrador. Trips like this one are not just collecting expeditions. They are how Maria goes to school.
Expeditions are important because I can see the plants, how they actually grow. Sure, I have collected and I have purchased certain plants from other growers or started them from seed. And you read in the books how they grow and how you should cultivate in your gardens. But to actually go and see how they grow in nature, what kind of soil they grow in, I could never pick up that kind of information in a book. And it's called the hoary willow.
And you haven't been able to find this anywhere else?
Oh, it grows all over Newfoundland, but nowhere else. It's one of those... Also, the landscape just fascinates me. Bogs, and yet within a bog area, you will have these calcareous barrens, stone barrens. You'll have these 2 very contrasting habitats. Did you mark the date and everything properly?
Michael often accompanies Maria on her collecting trips, and he has supported her gardening interest from the beginning.
I kind of believe if you're going to be happy, you got to let somebody do what they're passionate about doing it. She's so totally passionate about this that, and that's how she's been able to get the amount of knowledge that she has.
Even as a small girl growing up in Greece, Maria found her true home in the natural world.
Among my siblings and my cousins that we all lived together, I was considered quite a troublemaker and a tomboy. I would just always be off, checking nature. I used to uncover the snakes that used to be in the gardens or in the woods and stuff like that. But I was always in the woods, always checking things out.
She grew up, came to Canada, found a job, got married, had children, and lost her bond with nature.
I used to wear, because I was in the fashion business, wear the latest clothing, because that's the kind of business and the kind of life I had. I know I have a personality where I have to be busy and I have to have my own life, apart from the life of the children. That's why I had a full-time career in retail before my gardening, and I wasn't the type of person to stay home and be a homebody.
The family weekends at Sutton were an antidote to alienation and a route back to her first love.
The vegetable garden was part of my childhood, and we always had a wonderful vegetable garden, and so that was the first garden I attempted here. Slowly, as my career life changed in Montreal and the children grew up a little bit, and they didn't need me as much, and I sort of started spending a little bit more time in the country. I started creating a little garden here, a little perennial garden there, and before you know it, I mean, I just got voracious.
It can get to become an all-consuming passion whereby, you know, you just never have enough time. It's just one new plant species after another. And so I basically try to keep her grounded.
Sometimes I'm so into it and I'm looking so hard that I miss the whole picture, and he's able to maybe help in that respect. I'm a very emotional person. Things sometimes get overwhelming for me, and as this developed into a full life project for me, he has been there as the rock.
We'll return with more of Maria Galletti on Recreating Eden. Maria's life as a gardener changed forever when she met Evelyn Lambart, Eve to her friends, an award-winning film animator and renowned gardener. Her first visit left Maria gasping.
The first time I came here, I was just flabbergasted. It was just so much to take in, and so many plants that I had never seen before in my life, and that it was just incredible.
The women became dear friends, with Eve as Maria's mentor. Under her tutelage, Maria went from weekend puttering to serious creative gardening.
She used to give me seeds, and she was a member of the Royal Horticultural Society of England, and she was the catalyst for me in getting involved with the rock garden societies and, you know, discovering alpines and rock garden plants.
It was Eve who introduced Maria to the notion of cultivating native wild plants.
It was something that I never thought myself to do, sort of take from nature and put it in your garden and really mix it in with all the other cultivated plants.
After a full life, Eve passed away in 1999 at the age of 84. Maria was the last person to see her alive.
I like to go to Eve's garden every so often just to feel her presence in the garden. And for the longest time after she died, she was always in my mind, and when I came to the gardens, I always felt she was around here. And it's a warm feeling to be in her gardens. I always felt very warm here.
In late August, the ferry ride from St. Barb, Newfoundland to the Labrador shore is a chilly hour and 3/4. Joining Maria and Michael is Captain Dick Steele, a plant buddy of Maria's who's well known among alpine growers.
What's that little village on the west?
Despite her inexperience, when Captain Steele first met her, he immediately recognized a fellow traveler.
Some people describe us as plant nuts, and it was quite obvious that she was. Her powers of observation, her quick ability to see plants, it was obvious that she had a very good eye for selecting them in the wild.
Oh, there they are. They're small.
Yes.
Usually these plants are almost inaccessible in other parts of the world, like there's Diapensia laponica, which is an alpine plant that is not really seen unless you go at very high altitudes. Or in Newfoundland, because of the landscape and because of the geological composition, you can actually walk off the road and see these particular plants. This is glandulosa. Dick, this one is glandulosa.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
very.
Maria has risen to a position of respect among experts like Dick Steele in a remarkably short time. Only a few years ago, her expertise amounted to no more than a strong drive to learn.
She basically started almost from scratch. She decided that she wanted to do this, and then she figured, well, I need to get some knowledge. So she applied to the Botanical Gardens in Montreal and was promptly refused. And so I guess she finally realized that if she wanted to learn this, she's going to have to do it on her own. And so she started collecting books, becoming member of the North American Rock Garden Society, meeting people and going to study sessions. It took her about 4 years just to get enough material to open the nursery.
The nursery was simply the next logical step for a woman whose mission in life had become germinating plants.
I had this overabundance of seedlings, and what do I do with them? And I was so much in love with these plants. I just wanted to introduce them to people. And also, it was the financial aspect. I was spending a fortune on seeds. I won't even say it because I don't want Michael to know how much money I was spending. And it was a way to help me put back some of that expense into my gardens, my rock gardens. Once they put the structure down, then we can line it with that wiring that we put in the coal frames.
Yeah.
And that's no problem. All they have to
We were
do is,
discussing her new little greenhouse and how the plastic after 20 years is going to fade to yellow. But I said, Maria, when that happens, you'll be 71, okay? So I said, yes, but I intend to be gardening until I'm 95.
I'm really just a little kid in a candy store, and I lose total track of time. By the time I finished in the day, it would be 7, 8 o'clock. I said, well, just a little bit longer. I just want to do one more pot. It's seeing some of the rare things that have germinated. I get totally gaga over.
We'll return with more of Maria Galletti on Recreating